Hi, my name is Kendall and welcome to this week's episode of Mythbusters. Today, many people believe that Betsy Ross was the one responsible for creating the first American flag. The first American flag was created back in 1777. The first flag had 13 stripes, 7 red and 6 white. It also had 13 stars to represent the 13 colonies in the Union. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White represents purity and innocence. Blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. So the question is, who designed the first American flag? Many people think it was Betsy Ross, but today we're going to dig deeper into that question. Did Betsy Ross really create the American flag, or is it a myth we have to bust? Let's take a closer look at Betsy Ross. Betsy Ross was born on January 1st in 1752 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and died on January 30th, 1836. Her real name is not Betsy Ross. It's Elizabeth Grimson. She had 16 siblings. 11 were girls, including Betsy. There were 12 girls, and 5 were boys. She had 3 husbands named John Ross, Joseph Ashburn, and John Claypole. Betsy herself had 7 children of her own. They were all girls. Now on to the really important part. So, if Betsy Ross sewed the first American flag, where did Betsy Ross learn how to sew? Growing up, Betsy became an apprentice to John Webster, a talented and popular Philadelphia upholsterer. She spent several years under Webster, learning to make and repair curtains, bed covers, tablecloths, rugs, and umbrellas. She loved to sew and create new things. So, we have evidence that Betsy Ross did in fact love sewing and knew how to sew, but why do people think she designed the first flag? What else do we need to know? Congress recognized that the new nation needed a flag. On June 14, 1777, it passed the country's first flag law, that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field representing a new constellation. So, in theory, the United States could have used somebody like Betsy Ross to get things organized. In 1870, her grandson, William Canby, claimed that it was his grandmother who sewed the first flag. Sitting sewing in her shop one day with her girls around her, she was asked by a group of men, including George Washington himself, to sew the flag based on a drawing. According to the story, Betsy Ross did not like the design and suggested improvements of her own. Washington agreed with her, grabbed a pencil, and revised the drawing. Betsy sewed the first prototype flag, and Congress approved it. Based on this story, the Philadelphia seamstress became a flag maker for the struggling nation. Now let's figure out why historians aren't so convinced that it was really Betsy Ross. First, even though her grandson said it was so, it doesn't mean it's always so. Aside from her grandson's story, there was no other written documentation from outside parties to confirm this story was true. Second, the story of Ross sewing the first American flag is similar to what you would find in a tall tale. It's a lovely and memorable story that people have passed down from generation to generation, but no evidence exists to prove Betsy Ross was indeed the creator of the American flag. So, where does this really leave us? Is this a myth that has to be busted? Based on my research, there isn't enough evidence to prove that Betsy Ross made the first American flag. But there's not enough evidence to prove that she wasn't the creator either. So, my final answer is we don't have enough evidence to prove or disprove if Betsy Ross was the real creator of the flag. There's no reason to bust this myth until we get more facts to prove it. Until now, my vote's on Betsy Ross. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Mythbusters.